Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Correspendence. We are on episode 4 now, and we've got our very first machined maker that we are talking to. So I'd like to welcome Quinton, or Q, from Q3D Pens. How are you today, Q?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Doing well, doing well. Like I said, I picked up my daughter and she's taking a nap right now, so I've got a couple minutes, so good timing. First off, how did you get into pens? I know you've been kind of making since '08, as it says on your website, but I didn't get to know you until last year. But what happened between '08 and 2023 where you got into making
Uh,
pens?
so many things. Um, so I guess a little history of myself. So I grew up in a machine shop. So my grandfather actually started it, and then my dad still runs it, but all manual machines and stuff. So I grew up machining things, welding, cutting metal, all kinds of things like that. In 2008, I would have been like a sophomore in high school, and I wanted to, for some reason, I don't really remember why, but I wanted to make a ring. So I went down to the shop and machined a ring, and that was my first foray into really like I'll call it like jewelry. Um, and I made a few in
Nice.
high school for some friends and things. Didn't really make anything special of it. But when I got to college, my senior design project when I was in college was the formula car. So we had to basically build a car. So we were spending a lot of time in the shop, and we had a lot of downtime, and we were talking about things that we had made in the past or something like that. And like, man, it'd be really cool to make a ring out of titanium. So I went on eBay and bought a bar of titanium. I don't remember how much it was. This titanium and especially things to make rings are significantly easier to find now than when that was. That would have been like 2013, 2014, something like that. So anyway, we bought a bar of titanium and we were messing around in the machine shop, made a couple rings. So I started making rings then, and I kind of turned that into a little bit of business for a while when I actually started Q3D in 2016, doing a lot of 3D printing at the time as well as the ring thing.
Showed me one of your
Um,
rings too. They were like I think a nice meteorite type ring, didn't you?
yeah, I've made rings out of so many things. I made Fordite rings back before it got really, really popular. It was really popular a few years ago. It's probably less popular now, but I've made rings out of wood from battleships and parts of airplanes and just
Oh, that's
all
so
kinds
cool.
of stuff. Yeah, pretty much anything I could machine, I would make into a ring. And I have so many. If you scroll back through my Instagram, you can see tons and tons of pictures. Um, but I pretty much quit that right around the time of COVID. So late 2019, early 2020. I was doing a lot of selling on Etsy and stuff, but uh, ring customers are a challenging bunch. And then a few other things happened in the ring space. So there was a maker named Patrick Adair. You've probably seen his like ads on Facebook and stuff. But he started a YouTube channel on how to make rings, and it became hugely successful. And I think he was 18, 17 or 18 at the time, just like making them in his parents' garage, and started this YouTube channel and blew up. And he has like hundreds of thousands of subscribers, or maybe even more now, and like turned it into like
Wow.
a legit business, like multimillionaire. So excellent for him. But that did kind of a couple things. One, it lowered the barrier to entry significantly, and a bunch of companies also popped up because of that popularity to sell basically like pre-made rings, kind of like not dissimilar to like a wood turned pen kit where you basically buy all the parts and you do like some minimal turning and put a pen
Yep.
together or a ring together.
Gotcha.
So basically drove the price like super far down. Just wasn't worth it. I decided, nah, I'm done with that. But I had just gotten into pens, so I can't remember exactly which one was first. My first machined pen was either a tactile turn bolt action or a copper TI2 design tech liner. And I still have both of them actually. And I also had before I made my first pen, I had it was Urban Survival Gear at the time, titanium
Yep.
V2 TI Scribe V2, which actually is one of my favorite pens of all time. The one with the two screw clip, fantastic. I had a
Nice.
Timeaxis clip on there, and I anoded the rings and stuff. Um,
Ooh, you got the
that
goods on
pen,
there.
yeah, that pen actually was lost at some point. I think it was actually stolen, but uh,
No.
Either way, yeah, it's a shame too because I lost it for a long time and then I found it and then I had it for like a week and then it was lost again. I've never seen it since. So it's like very
Check under your
disappointing.
car seat. I have found two of my machine pens like in between the car seat, like underneath because they fall out when I'm getting in and out of the car from work.
Yeah, I actually found TI Scribe V3 in the car that I had sold to my dad actually when I was cleaning it out. I was like, oh man, I was wondering where that was at because it was lost for like 2 years. But in early 2020, it's actually in like the end of February, beginning of March of 2020. So like right before COVID happened, I was like, man, I can make my own pen. It's not that bad. So I like worked on a few designs and I machined my first pen out of aluminum, which was actually this pen. So this is just a click pen based on like the Schmidt mech. This has got, I don't know, some energel refill.
Thank you for showing
But
us.
this one, yeah, this one is actually like a three piece. So this would be like my intent was to do something similar to like what Nottingham does, where they have, you can change out the mechanism. And at the time when I made this, I didn't even know Nottingham was a thing. But this was the first pen I made. But then I was actually in the process of like quoting this out and getting some prototypes made, like in anodized colors and things like that, and working on a bolt action version of it. But then COVID happened, and I kind of put that whole thing on pause because just too much uncertainty. So that kind of just put the damper on that. Mostly focused on 3D printing during the pandemic, and I was helping a buddy out with a project. He was looking to get some more space in his shop, and he gave me a mini mill sometime during COVID. So at the end of 2022, I was just sitting around one day, and I was like, you know what? I can make a bolt action pen. I have a mill now because that was kind of like the main thing that I only had a lathe before. So making a bolt action pen is pretty tricky if you only have a lathe. But then I had a mill, so I ordered a indexable holder for the mill, and I made my first bolt action pen, which was this pen right here. This is stainless, and it has a Mokume bolt pin, and it had a Mokume tip, but I repurposed that on another pen. So this is actually really similar to the pens that I still make today. The body is still 100 millimeters long. It's 10 millimeters in diameter. Uses the same full size tip, same top cap. At the time, I was using TI2 design clips. I was just buying them from them because I didn't really have a good way to make a machine clip or a form clip. And it's pretty similar. The main difference is this bolt slot's a little different. It's probably hard to tell, but when the refill is extended, there's actually a gap. So there's like a hole in there. So that was like one of the things they
Yes.
changed.
And then I don't know if you can see mine, viewers, but this one here is engaged and there's no hole there, so you can see the
Yep,
difference.
no hole. Yep. So that was one of the main things that changed. And then this was the second pen that I ever made. So
That
this
was
is
a
a
great change
full
too, just because I
yes.
always like I'm scared of like sand or grit in there. It's not like I'm rolling
Yes.
it in the ground outside, but I'm always like, oh, I don't want sand and grit in there. So good change.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's only going to be out when you're using the pen, so the odds of you getting
Right.
something in there are pretty slim. But just from a design perspective, it was easy enough of a problem to solve. So this was the second pen I made. This is a full titanium Damascus pen, and then I started posting on Reddit. I don't remember how I found the machine pens subreddit. I I probably found it via the regular pens subreddit at some point. Um, yeah, I started gaining some popularity and started making pens, and then in early 2023 started with the twisty, and then later around June of that year started with the my second design, the knurly, and then it's just kind of progressed um, onwards from there.
Lately, you've been like since the new year 6 months ago, you've been cranking them out, man. You've got like 7 designs in total, and only I think you started the year with three, like you said. So since then, you've come in 6 months, you've come out with four different designs. So
Yeah.
what's going on, man? How are you so creative? Do you
Um.
have some sort of inspiration, a muse, or what's your
uh.
ethos in
Yeah.
creation?
I mean, really, I just get a lot of inspiration just from everyday things. I mean, I spend probably way too much time online, just looking at stuff. But I've always, been uh, more pointed towards just like wild design stuff. Like that's kind of like you look at like the twisty, and people have done like helix twist pens in the past, but nothing nothing quite as aggressive as that. And then the Nerly is the same way. It was this like real aggressive industrial kind of design. And then this year I've been trying some more subtle, more intricate designs. So a lot of it is I've learned a few new methods for modeling these things. So that's kind of opened the door to a few more designs. Like the wave was a new modeling technique to create that pattern. And then doing things like the triad. So this is the triad with the really intricate, almost like illusion type pattern where it looks different if it's close up versus far away from you. So I definitely like to explore that. But yeah, kind of just doing more. I think this was one that I showed you long before I even made it.
Yeah, that's like
Which
my
ended,
favorite, the molecule.
yeah, ended up becoming the molecule. And honestly, I made the triad, the wave, and the molecule at the same time. And the wave was my first favorite, and this was actually my least favorite of the three. But this has been a massive success. So people absolutely love this pen. So that's very cool. But it's just interesting what I like versus what everybody else likes.
I know. I was gonna say at one point you mentioned that my favorite grip wasn't your favorite, and then you mentioned I think you didn't like, was it a million of it, or no, the million of the tiny tied dam bolts. Where is it? There you go. The actual titanium
Oh
Damascus
yeah,
bolt. You were like, oh, I hate million those. Like,
yeah. My first several pens, I was all making myself individually, machining every single part start to finish. But to make a single pen takes start to finish about 5 hours. So obviously, if you want to scale, that's not really feasible. Um, so I've been developing a shop actually out in Delaware who has been machining parts for me for I don't know, over a year, 18 months, something like that. However long it's been. But they are absolutely awesome. And it allows me to do really cool things like offer things like these cone tips or, these crazy body millings. And it's not easy to not only design these, but to make them. I mean, machining them is tricky. So they're very talented.
can you even say at one point, I think you were milling like zirconium or something, or something caught on fire that you were milling?
Yeah, so exotic materials, I mean, even titanium can burn, and you can light it on fire. In fact, I use it to start fires, like in my fire pit all the time. I just grab like a handful of shavings and throw them in there because they burn super hot. I think they burn at like 4,000 degrees or something. It's like insane.
Wow.
But pure zirconium isn't too bad, and titanium alloys aren't too bad. It's when you have zirconium and you have them forged together that, for whatever reason, is just really happy to catch on fire. So usually whenever I do any kind of machining with zirconium, I clean the lathe really well. Um, but yeah, it's definitely more exciting, but it's not terribly dangerous.
Well, before we move on, I do want to give you a compliment on your clips too. I love the machine clips. They're like my favorite clip on the market. I love how you can reposition the.
So you can
Mhm.
position them anywhere you want. You just turn it and then tighten them together. So I think that's kind of a unique thing about my pens. I don't think anybody else offers a repositionable machine clip. The only person that has anything that would be even remotely close would be Magnus with his quick shift clips, but even those, they are keyed, so not really repositionable. He could have made it repositionable, but um, he didn't for whatever reason. Maybe it's a small thing, and maybe it's not something people really do or care about. But I like to give people the choice. Or alternatively, you can just remove it and use it without the clip, which there's
Very
a few
cool.
people who do that as well.
Are you working with any charities? I know you're making
Yeah,
one for Brownie.
that's my first really foray into that. So he has a special, I'll call it like colorway of pen that he asked me about doing. So we're doing some special twisties proceeds. Like I think it is the Doctors Without Borders. Um, yeah, we're doing 15 of those, and they're going to be numbered. So they're being laser engraved, I think tonight actually. So they will be shipping very soon. It's taken us a little bit. We've had some challenges on the way. I've never done like a batch of 15 essentially custom pens, so I've learned several things because there's Cerakote work and anno work and special boxes and stuff like that. So it's been a learning experience. Been a little slow to get through all that, but we're nearing the finish line. So that's good. Definitely open to do more of that stuff.
Speaking of boxes, your containers are like some of the coolest around, man. The 3D printed containers. I went ahead and I grabbed some of your containers so our viewers at home could see here. So they're 3D printed with the actual style of the pen on there, whatever the milling is, and then your pen is on the inside. It makes it that you could actually keep this on your desk, which is really cool. And then if you got the exotic one, he made like a box, and then when you open it up, it like presents the pen, it like lifts the pen up out of the box toward you. So just his presentations, they're very cool. They're like over the top. Most people, most companies just have like a very plain box, maybe in a little bit of styrofoam, but it's nothing to this degree. So definitely want to give you props on your containers.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, just leveraging some of that 3D printing knowledge. I've been 3D printing stuff since 2013, so long time. Yeah, I'm not really sure where the idea for the box matching the milling came from. Just thought of it one day, but I actually use the 3D model that I make the pen from, and then just kind of scale it and turn it into the box. But it's like I said, it's just a cool, unique thing, and nobody else is really doing it. But it works great for shipping, and like I said, works great for gift giving and all those kinds of things. Just makes it a little more unique. And then the self-opening box, that one, that one actually was a ring box that I had designed right towards the end of when I was making rings, that you would open it and it would present the ring. And I was just thinking one day, like, I bet that would work for a pen. So I just kind of tweaked it a little bit, and it does pretty good. They're finicky to make. I've actually been thinking about another box redesign for something with like some kind of slide-on lid or something a little bit easier to make. Um, but I haven't prototyped it yet. But it's
That's
coming.
very cool. Got a couple quick questions here, kind of like almost like a lightning round. So if you're okay with it, I'll give you like two options or like a quick question, and then just like shoot from the hip, like go with your gut. Tell us kind of first thing that pops to your mind. Are you down?
Sure.
Here we go. G2 or Parker refill?
That one's tougher. Initially, I was all about larger pens and and full size refills, but lately I've been using that Montverde P42, and that's a fantastic refill. And the blue black is such a nice color. I get compliments on it all the time when I let somebody use one of my pens. I think people were right. It does look more proportional with the shorter tip on there. So I think initially I would have said G2, but I think now Parker style is the way to go.
Nice. You got the scoop here first, guys. And I do enjoy that. Is my favorite. If I'm going Parker, that's also my go-to. That blue black
Yep.
is great. Next one. Are you going with titanium or zirconium? Picking a pen for yourself.
Oh,
What are you
picking a
going to
pen
carry
for
today?
myself. Man, it's tough because I have so many pens. I think I could go either way. I mean, zirconium is such a interesting material when you flame it. So you of course can go black, and you can of course do the oil slick, but just the way it goes through the colors is similar to titanium, but still very different and unique. So I think from a pure material standpoint, I'd probably say zirconium. But I think for me, for an everyday carry, I would probably do a titanium pen.
Nice. All right. Next one. You like a lot of barbecue. What's your favorite thing to cook for barbecue?
Ribs is one of my all-time favorites. That was the first thing that I ever smoked, and I have just always been a fan of ribs. I smoked pretty much everything at this point, but as far as smoking goes, I would say ribs for sure.
Awesome. All right, ready? Next one is sunglasses. So obviously we can see behind you, you are a big collector of Oakley sunglasses. Are you more of a fan of the kind of uni single lens design, or like would you rather two independent individual lenses when you pick sunglasses for the day?
Oh, I will wear whatever. I mostly the thing that I really look for is basically how obnoxious is it. So I really like loud colors and wild frame and lens combinations, and I have some pretty crazy ones. In fact, there's
Do
one
you
sitting
have
right here.
do you have the ones
Yeah,
that go over the top of your head like a
I
superhero
have
villain type thing?
I I have had several of those over the years, but I don't have any currently. But here's one. These are cast titanium, which has been polished and anodized. So
Oh
these are a real
wow.
crazy one.
That's cool
Um,
that that's titanium.
yeah. Uh, so Oakley actually, if I can go on a quick tangent,
Yeah.
so the guy who started Oakley, Jim Jannard, he ran his company kind of by doing whatever he thought would be cool, not necessarily whatever would sell the best or be the most profitable. Which is how you ended up with things like the over the tops or the Medusa. If you've ever seen a Medusa, it has goggles and like leather dreads, real bizarre looking thing. But somebody basically told him like, there's no way that you could ever make titanium sunglasses in the U.S. So he bought a titanium golf club factory out in Nevada and started making investment cast titanium sunglasses back in 1998, and they were, I think, like $250 retail or something like that in
Wow.
1998. So like real expensive, and people thought he was crazy, but they made them up until I think 2013, I think was when they stopped. And they've made like all kinds of crazy ones. Those are some of my favorites. But they they just did kind of whatever would be cool. So I kind of use that same philosophy, and they kind of have two sayings that I think I really like hone in on. One is inventions wrapped in art, so that's one of their kind
Cool.
of ethos, and the other is everything can and will be made better. So I kind of take that approach when I do my pens. You know, if I can fix the design, like the Swift Click, working on a version 2 now, or doing like minor tweaks like to my bolt action pen to fix those little things, stuff like that. So
Yeah, all the time. Even like on the bolts, I notice you're like anodizing your actual bolts now too. Even if it's like the same in all other aspects, you're still innovating on little things. So it's very cool.
yep.
Oh, even didn't you just get a laser engraver too? Speaking of,
I did not yet. I actually have several friends here in the area that are they work for laser engraving companies,
okay,
so
okay.
it works out really handy that I can leverage those friendships. I might get one at some point because it there's just a lot of things I could do that I think would be awesome.
Yeah,
Um, I think that my next equipment purchase will probably be a blast cabinet. So I have a I have a friend of mine out in California who does my blasting now, who I
yeah,
met actually through Oakley Collecting. But that's a long drive to get stuff done. So I'm looking to
yeah.
move that in house so I can do
That would
some
be
more
cool.
wild. I've got some wild ideas I think that I could do with blasting if I had more
Yeah.
direct control of it and more time to play around with it directly.
Last question, kind of off the beaten path here. I know you like aviation and planes. What's your favorite plane? You could do like all-time plane or favorite military,
Oh
fighter
man,
jet.
that's such a tough one. I mean, there are so many cool ones. I don't know that I would have a favorite. It's just there's so many between every era, World War One, World War Two,
All
jet
right,
age stuff.
World War
There's just
II.
so many to pick
Best
from.
World War II plane for you, or most favorite. Doesn't have to be
Uh
best performing,
most favorite.
right? Like I like the P-38. That's not the best performing, but it's a cool plane.
P38s are very cool. I would say probably B29 is probably one of my
Okay,
favorites. They're just
Super Fortress,
they
huh?
just looks yeah, they just look so interesting and they're just very cool.
Yeah, especially with the
Um,
domes and like in the front and the
yeah,
back for the
the
gunners.
the
It just looks like a
windows, yeah, the
weird thing.
windows and everything, just the shape, like it just looks like really good. Um, I think that's up there, especially if you were to judge by looks alone. I think that's up there. Also, a lot of the German stuff. I mean, they just made so many good looking airplanes. Like FW190 is probably up there and one of my all time favorites. It just also just looks fantastic.
Yeah, I
So
used to play fighter anthology like Jane's, back in the 90s when fighter simulators were big. Kind of died out after the early 2000s. I don't know why, but yeah, that was a well-performing plane too. So cool, cool. All right, so and getting back to pens, last lightning round question here. If you're picking a pen for yourself, are you doing Mukame or titanium Damascus?
oh man, probably Titanium. Yeah, it looks so good. Um, and it kind of comes back to those like just wild and crazy, obnoxious colors and finishes. Like it
Yeah,
just you can get some just amazing looking material. And I I buy my material from Twisty Shop, which is a maker in Ukraine actually. Um, and their stuff is second to none. Both the patterns and just the quality of the material is just phenomenal, and you can get such good looking pens out of their stuff. So
it is. Even the exotic Swift Click I've got, it didn't have any milling because we left it just how it was because the exotic wave that's even in the pattern itself in the metal. So very
yeah, and
cool.
that's another thing. I don't think anybody's done a wave tie dam or Zerky tie pen other than me. I don't. I've never seen anybody use that for anything like that. So
Nice. How can our friends find you? What's the best way to go ahead and contact you?
I'm pretty active on the Discord. That's probably the easiest way. If you want to get a hold of me, join the Discord and shoot me a message on there or post in my channel there. Of course, you can always email me, but that's a little slower usually. And I get a lot of people contact me through Reddit as well, through the Machine Pens sub. But
And then you also have a website up as well. We'll put all those links down below if anybody's watching this, so you can just scroll down and click in the comments. So, well, awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to hit, Q? Any
um,
upcoming things you're excited about? Anything going on down the road?
upcoming things. Oh, lots of stuff. So I've got the Disco will come out here towards the end of the month. So that's a pretty cool pattern. That one's actually, I had to take it apart to steal parts for this teal Ryujian. And then we'll be doing some restocks. So I've got more molecules coming as well as more waves. Also bringing back the Nurly in Zirconium this time. So that will be a popular one. Yes, people will be very excited about that. I should also get my prototypes for my click pen. So I'm working on a more traditional click pen, thinks like Phillips Minsole kind of thing, regular plunger click pen. So I'll have my prototypes of that this month. If that goes well, that will probably become a Kickstarter. That's my plan for that. And I mentioned I was working on the Swift Click V2. So yeah, this is actually the last I'll call it retail Swift Click. I have my own that I'm going to keep, but I haven't decided what I want to do with this yet. If I actually want to get rid of it, if I want to put it in the archives, I'm not sure. But it is very satisfying to click. But I'm working on a version 2 that the Swift Click body is actually 98 millimeters instead of 100. So I'm not sure why I did that. But I'm going to make it 100 like all my other pens. And then that will allow me to just easily put the patterns across all of them.
I see.
So we could do like molecules clicks or things like that.
Cool.
People will be very excited about that. And I'm going to rework the mech and spring a little bit. Hopefully make it less finicky to build for myself, because some of them were a little troublesome.
I remember you told me
not
recommended to disassemble for the Swift Click. So
yeah, they're just a little tricky. It's not like you'll break it or anything, but there's definitely a method to do it. And I should probably make a YouTube video at some point on how to do it. But it can be tricky, both disassembly and assembly. Basically, if it works, just leave it alone. So many more body designs drawn up, and I'm working on other ones all the time. So there'll be continuous releases just as we move on. And then all those, of course, when my click pen's ready, those are all carry over to the click pen as well. So
nice.
I think there's
very cool.
Probably a little something for everybody on the horizon. So
I wanted to ask you, I know you did some anodizing yourself, so you know a lot more than I do, and I'm just starting to get into it. Do you have any tips for someone who's like just starting to get into anodizing titanium or anything?
Tips. Well, cleanliness is kind of everything. Definitely, wear nitrile gloves so you don't leave finger oils, and then clean your parts really well. If you really want to do high voltage colors, you really need an etchant. My advice is mostly just to ignore them unless you get a little more talented in that. You can also use heat, which I found heat tends to be more durable, but obviously you don't get the same consistency that you do with electricity. You'll get just natural variation through the temperature difference, but that can also look really good. I mean, there's beauty in chaos. So
yeah,
it's definitely an aesthetic to do it that way. But you can't really do the high like the high voltage color equivalence with temperature. You can, but it's really tricky because if you go too far, it just kind of turns like a gray. So it's really tricky. If you want to get those like greens and pinks and those kinds of things, pretty much got to do it with electricity.
No, are you still doing anodizing in-house, or I know like the special molecules came from a different company, but are you still doing some of your anodizing in-house?
That's because those are Cerakote.
Oh wow!
And My main constraint for all these things that I outsource is space. So I essentially operate out of a garage stall that's basically double depth. So I am pretty limited on space. Otherwise, I would do my own Cerakote and those sorts of things. But one, there's only so much time, and two, there's only so much room. So yeah, those molecules, the Cerakote work was done by a friend of mine. But yeah, I do all my own anodizing. Yep.
Cool. Yeah, I love what you do with your anodizing. So nice job, man.
Thank you.
Well, Q, we want to thank you for being our fourth guest here on Correspendence. We want to thank you for everything you're doing. I love all your designs. You're constantly innovating. You're constantly even going back and retweaking and reworking to better the designs you already have. So you're like a madman tinkering away, and it's great if you're part of the Discord, because Q posts his ideas and his pictures like all the time. So everybody's kind of like always, throwing in their 2 cents and giving him mad props for all of these awesome designs. Thank you again for taking the time to talk to us. Thank you for all that you do and all these awesome pens that you are making for us. And thank you for being approachable too. Sometimes it's really hard to get in contact with some of the makers. And you've always been not only like open on Discord, but like you said, you're very approachable on like Reddit or anything like that. Even this, you were open for an interview. So thank you for all that you do, Q.
Sure. And it's great to chat with everybody. I mean, there's nothing more satisfying than people saying like, hey, I got that pen and it's awesome. It's my favorite pen I've had, and it's just fantastic. And all the pen customers you've all been excellent. So it's great. So yeah, feel free to join the Discord, reach out, chat with me anytime.
Oh, one more thing. What's your dog's name again?
Oh, Thunder. Yeah,
Thunder.
He's you think you probably heard him barking earlier. He has a chair up in front of some windows, so he likes to curl up there and sleep, and then occasionally bark at anybody who dares to walk by our house.
So if you want to see Quinton's, if you want to see Q's dog, definitely check out the Discord, because he posts pictures of his dog up there too. So, all right, man. Thank you again. Have a wonderful evening, and we will speak to you again soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.